Think of the last time someone really hurt you. Not a stranger, not some faceless person online. Someone who mattered. A partner, a parent, a friend you've had for, say, 10 years. You finally worked up the courage to tell them. You wrote it out. You explained exactly what they did and exactly how it made you feel. You didn't attack them, you just named it. And they looked at you, or they read your message, and they said, well, nothing. Or worse, they said, you're too sensitive. That's not what I meant. You're making this about you. Or the classic, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not, I'm sorry I hurt you. That's, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's not an apology. It's a deflection. It's a magic trick. And by the time you realize what just happened, you're already the one apologizing for bringing it up, for making them uncomfortable, for feeling hurt in the first place. Today we're going into the psychology of people who never apologize. Not the occasional slip up. Not the awkward, sorry I guess. The pattern. The architecture of avoidance. Why some people would rather lose you entirely than say two simple words and mean them. And here's the thing. Some of them don't even know they're doing it. Others know exactly what they're doing. And the difference matters more than you think. Before we talk about the people who never apologize, we need to talk about the people who apologize badly. Because the shallow apology and the missing apology are cousins. They come from the same family tree. There's a researcher named Harriet Lerner. She's spent decades studying apology. And she says a real apology has 3 parts. Not 2, not 1, 3. The number 1. You name what you did. Specifically. I'm sorry I raised my voice in front of your friends. Specific. Uncomfortable. Exact. Number 2. You acknowledge the impact. I know that embarrassed you. I know that made you feel small. And lastly, number 3, and this is the one everyone skips, you commit to change. Here's what I'll do differently next time. Most people never get past step 1. And some people, well, they never even start. But here's what's fascinating. The people who give shallow apologies, I'm sorry you feel that way. I guess I'm the bad guy now. Sorry, but you provoked me. They're not actually trying to repair anything. They're trying to close the conversation. They're trying to make the problem go away without ever admitting to the problem. And when that doesn't work, when you keep pushing, that's when you see the real machinery in action. The defense mechanisms, the psychological architecture that keeps them safe and keeps you spinning. Let's walk through the actual psychology now, because this isn't random. It's not just some people are jerks. There are patterns, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. First, projection. Projection is when you take something you can't accept about yourself, anger, selfishness, cruelty, and you see it in other people instead. You don't just deny it, you relocate it. So the person who never apologizes when you say, you hurt me, they don't hear, I made a mistake. They hear, you think I'm a bad person. And that feeling, that deep, nauseating shame, is so unbearable that their brain has to push it somewhere else. So they say, you're always playing the victim. You're impossible to please. No matter what I do, it's never enough for you. They're not describing you, they're describing their own fear about themselves. But they've made it your problem. And now you're defending your character instead of addressing what they did. This is why arguments with non-apologizers feel so disorienting. You start with, "You forgot my birthday and it hurt me." And somehow you end up apologizing for being too demanding. That's not an accident. That's projection working exactly as designed. Second, intellectualization. This one is sneakier because it looks like engagement. It looks like they're taking you seriously. They don't say, "You're wrong." They say, "Let's look at the facts." They pull out timelines. They quote things you said 3 years ago. They analyze your communication style and suggest you might benefit from examining your own triggers. It sounds smart. It sounds reasonable, but it's a fortress. Intellectualization is a defense mechanism where you retreat into logic and analysis to avoid feeling anything. Because if they actually sat with your hurt, if they actually imagined what it felt like to be you in that moment, they'd have to feel something too. Guilt, remorse, the sharp, specific pain of knowing you caused pain. And that's too much. So they build a wall of words and hide behind it. You'll recognize this one because the conversation never lands. It circles, it theorizes, it diagnoses, but it never touches down in, "I was wrong, I'm sorry." Third, denial and minimization. This is the blunt instrument. "That didn't happen. You're remembering it wrong. It wasn't that big of a deal." Minimization is denial's smarter sibling. "Okay, maybe it happened, but you're blowing it out of proportion. Everyone argues. It was just a joke." Both of these serve the same function. They shrink the offense until it doesn't require an apology. If the thing didn't happen, or if it was tiny, then you're the one with the problem for bringing it up. This is especially common in family systems where accountability was never modeled. If you grew up in a house where "I'm sorry" was weakness, where parents never apologized to each other or to you, then your brain literally doesn't have the software. The option doesn't really exist in the menu. And that brings us to the hardest part: narcissistic defense patterns and attachment wounds. Narcissistic patterns are about maintaining a grandiose self-image. The person needs to see themselves as special, superior, or at minimum, never wrong. One genuine apology, one real admission of fault, and the whole thing collapses. So they defend it with everything they have. The hallmark of this pattern is that it's strategic. It's not panic, it's maintenance. They're avoiding it because apology threatens their entire identity structure. But then there's the attachment wound. And this is different. This is someone who grew up in an environment where vulnerability was punished, where saying "I'm sorry" as a child got you mocked or abandoned. Psychologist John Bowlby attachment theory showed us that kids learn about relationships from their earliest caregivers. If you apologize and the parent says, "Damn right, you're sorry, you're worthless," your brain does some rapid math. Apology equal danger. Vulnerability equal attack. So you build the shell. You learn to deflect, to minimize, to intellectualize, not because you're cruel, but because you're protecting a child self who learned that accountability was never safe. Here's what the non-apologizer doesn't see. Every avoided apology is a brick removed from a foundation. You don't notice one brick. You don't notice 5, but eventually there's a hole, and then a crack, and then one day the whole structure falls and everyone acts surprised. Research on relationship longevity is clear. It's not conflict that destroys relationships, it's repair, or the lack of it. Couples who fight but repair effectively stay together. Couples who avoid conflict or who fight without repair don't. An apology is the engine of repair, not the words alone, the willingness to be wrong, the willingness to be seen as flawed. That's intimacy. That's trust. When someone never apologizes, they're not just avoiding a moment of discomfort, they're opting out of intimacy itself. They're saying, implicitly, my comfort is more important than your hurt. My self-image is more important than our connection. And the people on the receiving end, they learn something too. They learn that their hurt doesn't matter, that naming it makes them a problem. They learn to swallow it, to minimize their own pain, to become smaller and smaller until they disappear entirely, or they leave. And the non-apologizer is left with a trail of ended relationships, all of which they explain the same way. They were too sensitive, they couldn't handle me, nobody appreciates realness anymore. Maybe you're watching this and you recognize yourself, not the victim, the avoider, the deflector, the person who hears, "You hurt me," and feels a wall slam down before you can even think. First, that's actually a good sign. Recognition is the door. Most people never touch the doorknob. Second, understand that your inability to apologize isn't a character flaw. It's a survival strategy that outlived its usefulness, but you built it for a reason. It kept you safe when safety was scarce, but now it's keeping you lonely. So here's a practice. Next time someone tells you they were hurt by something you did, even if you didn't mean to, even if you think they're wrong, try this. Don't explain, don't defend, don't analyze, just say, "Thank you for telling me. I need to sit with that." That's it. You don't have to agree in that moment, you don't have to have the perfect response, you just have to not run. Then later, an hour, a day, come back and say, "I've been thinking about what you said. I can see how my action hurt you. I'm sorry. Here's what I'll try to do differently." It will feel like dying, but it won't kill you. And the relationship you save might be the one with yourself. And if you're the one waiting, the one who keeps hoping they'll change, you need to know something painful but true. You cannot love someone into accountability. You cannot explain them into empathy. You cannot be patient enough, understanding enough, small enough to make them see you. The only thing that creates change is consequence. When the cost of not apologizing becomes higher than the cost of apologizing, the math shifts. And the only person who can raise that cost is you. That might mean boundaries. For example, I need you to acknowledge this if we're going to move forward. It might mean distance. I love you, but I can keep having this same conversation. It might mean leaving, not as punishment, as self-preservation. And if you're wondering whether to stay or go, ask yourself this. Is there any evidence of growth? Not promises, not "I'll try." Evidence. Have they ever, even once, taken real accountability and changed their behavior? If the answer is no, you're not waiting for growth. You're waiting for a personality transplant. Truly, apology is a superpower. We all have access to it. It doesn't require money, it doesn't require status. It requires only one thing: the courage to be seen as imperfect. And imperfection isn't the opposite of love, it's the prerequisite. The people who never apologize aren't strong, they're terrified. They're protecting something fragile and hollow, something that would shatter if it ever admitted a crack. And they will protect it until there's no one left to protect it from. But you can choose differently. You can be the person who says, I was wrong, who sits in the discomfort, who repairs what they broke. That person isn't weak. That person is free. If this resonated, you know what to do. If you want part 2 on how to apologize well, the kind of apology that actually heals, let me know in the comments. And if you're watching this thinking of someone specific, be gentle with yourself today. This stuff is hard. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day and rest well.